So here's what we're up to today. I'm a transformational business coach. I've started 9 companies. What I do now is I coach CEOs. That's it. And only CEOs who are growing really quickly. During the pandemic, I decided to interview fast-growing CEOs for my 3rd book, which it's due out later this year. It's called the Little Book of Big Scale, all about scaling. And the whole premise of the book is there are some companies that scale and they seem to do it effortlessly. And then there's others that follow what I'll call media trends, and they fail miserably, but they think they're doing the right thing. What's the difference and what actually works? The word we came upon was counterintuitive. The people that were scaling and we could vet it were using counterintuitive practices, not necessarily popular, not necessarily written a ton about, but they're working really well. What are those? How do we separate them from what we call 2-day-old sushi? Fair enough, good enough, but nobody wants 2-day-old sushi. That's an idea that won't work, but people think it does. So we wanted to figure out what works and what doesn't. We ended up with 8. We vetted them. And so the manuscript is done. It's into the publisher. It'll come out later this fall. That's the background for the book. So here's the rule we use on scale. Scaling, we say, is that you're growing 50% faster than your industry's rate of growth. So healthcare management grows about 8% a year. If you're scaling, you're consistently doing 12. And if you multiply those out by 4 or 5 years, you're going to double way faster than them because you're growing 50% faster. That's how we define scale, very, very simply. So with that as a backdrop, let's do this. I'm gonna use some slides. You can see the slides in the background. To get these guys out. There we go. Got to get those. Perfect. Let's get clear about what we're looking to get done on the call. 2 things from my perspective. It's to demonstrate or develop a first cut of what we call this the simplest tool to scale. It was the #1 best vetted, like we could prove it the best, counterintuitive scaling technique, and it's super simple. So we want to demonstrate a first cut and then help you customize your own on this call. We'll provide a roadmap for you to start that process. You'll see how simple it is. It's not easy, but it's simple. So those are 2 things that I propose we have for the call, but I'm interested in what you guys want to accomplish during the call. There's 3 of you. We should use the time really wisely. And the great thing is we'll get a chance to dig in pretty nicely with 3 of us. So what would you like to accomplish on the call?
Well, I'll jump in first. So I'm busy building out a product to help coaches essentially scale their process faster. It's validated, but I'm kind of looking at this transition between having a small team and quite a small single lines of communication. I look at the businesses I want to be like. They've got quite a lot of moving parts. There's suddenly departments. It's a big business. What are the things I could do now to start avoiding that kind of chaos when things start growing?
Oh, interesting. So design it so that you avoid a lot of that.
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm a tech guy, right? So I can do all the technology stuff. I'm fine with that. Scaling technology and databases and those sort of things. That's fine. The infrastructure we work with these days is built for that. But how do I scale the people? How do I go from a team of a few people that I can keep my eye on to a team of potentially hundreds with people and legislature and all kinds of things without losing my marbles? How can I put that stuff in place now so that there's a team growing up underneath me to take that complexity off my hands as we're moving through those different stages? Got it.
Terrific. What else? What else would you like to scale? Or what else would you like to accomplish on the call?
Well, I'll let someone else go. Thomas?
Yeah, I think so looking at scaling teams across different geographies. So I'm in the alternative protein space, so industrial biotechnology space. So we're building a commercial plan in China as we speak, and looking at expanding across other geographies as well. So how do we go from one geography to scaling the business across multiple geographies?
Got it. Sure, it's a very relevant topic these days. Yeah, is it possible to scale? And it sounds like if it's different geographies, it's also different cultures.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you scale one company with multiple locations and multiple geographies and multiple, you can have one company culture, but how do you do it with different national cultures? It's a great thing. Good. We'll play with that. This tool is specifically designed for that. Great. Philip, how about you?
Hey, John, and hey, gentlemen. Nice to meet you too. I know John. So I do cybersecurity, kind of relevant these days. And so my concern with scalability is really something that is intrinsic in the field, and that is it's hard to find professionals who are not already working, because it's such a high rate of growth in the field and so many opportunities that identifying people who are willing to make a change or take a risk is difficult. But to say the least, that's probably a better problem to have than not having anything that would be that attractive. So that's one thing. And connected to that, or tangent to that, is we're getting ready to get into the federal space, and so being able to provide, but the skill sets once again, and then grow at a rate that's manageable. In other words, not overpromise and underdeliver. So that's great. Those are two of my biggest concerns. I have others, but those are
great. Yeah. So this one will address the first piece. The how do you attract, and I'll also say retain the talent you want. Mm-hmm. I'll add one to that as well, which is how do you repel the talent that you don't want, that looks good, but you say, oh God, they're going to wreck our company if they come in here. We do things a specific way, and it's not for everybody. The people that it's a magnet for will love it, and the people that it's terrible for are going to say, I would never work there. And that's good for everybody.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Okay. Well, with that, that's a pretty robust agenda. Let's do a little backdrop on the actual, just success tips for the day. I don't think we need to mute. We've got a few enough people. That's great. If you want to throw stuff in the chat, if you have questions as we go, we'll address them. If you have specific questions, I think my email address is at the bottom of every slide. That's great. It's also my intention that afterwards I schedule time with everybody just to follow up, because you'll want to customize what you're doing, and it's not difficult, but it's much easier with somebody that knows the ropes on it. Your first time doing it, it's like skydiving. It's a little tricky the first time. Better to work with a guide, and just much faster. So I'm happy to do that after the call, but I think these are kind of common courtesy tips for the day. Checklist from your standpoint, if you should know it off the top of your head, your commercial vision could care less about your cultural vision. It's not that I don't like culture. The tool we're going to work with today is agnostic. It'll work whether you're peace, love, and understanding, or the beatings will continue until morale improves. It makes no difference. It's culture neutral. So helpful if you know your company's, your commercial vision 1 to 3 years out, but also just what's in front of you today. And then if you know your highest core values in ranked order, maybe as shown on your website, it's helpful. We can get by without it, but those are helpful. So the simplest tool that we found that was most effective in our interviews with these CEOs, we call it one core directive. So think of the military. The military does not speak in nuances or negotiations or whatnot. They say, Philip, dig a hole for a latrine. Daniels, drop and give me 20. It's always a directive or a command, if you will. And it cleans up communication. It's not necessarily polite, but everyone understands it. And then it's acknowledged by the person who got it. So when John has to do 20 push-ups, the acknowledgement in the military is, yes, sir. That says, I promised to do them and you can count on me. Good, now everybody's clear. The command was given, or the directive was given, and the recipient acknowledged it. So now think of this idea, if you will, across your entire organization. Thomas, you had said, how do we go across multiple geographies, multiple cultures? What if there were one core directive or one command, culturally neutral, that everyone followed? So if we came in every single day and we all knew what to do, the whole idea, I will give you some, is that there's one command that if you're facing a decision, you say, as long as I follow this as my number one directive, it's hard for me to make a bad decision. So I'm now more autonomous because I don't have to go to my boss or a team or whatnot. You say, oh, as long as I follow that, I can't get in too much trouble. It proactively will solve 95% of your problems. And the 5% of the time where it doesn't solve the problem, you adjust for that as you go. But the whole idea is to make people unified, autonomous, and focused on your commercial vision. The whole idea is this gets you to your commercial vision. So take SpaceX. They could have what I'll call bumper sticker directives. Love the customer. But if they can't get them to Mars and back, it doesn't matter that they love the customer. That's a worthless directive. It sounds great and should be in every business. It's not relevant at SpaceX. It's not relevant in a nuclear power plant, because if you screw around with the tools, you'll blow things up. So the whole idea with the core directive, when it's customized to your commercial vision, it allows autonomy, clarity, and focus for everybody across multiple divisions, especially with work from home, because people will, generally speaking, know what to do without having to check and get permission from 3 people. That make sense? Now, if SpaceX is peace, love, and understanding as their culture, I don't think they are. I don't think the beatings will continue until morale improves. We don't care what their culture is, really. We just say, what would be a core directive that would get all 4 of us to Mars and back safely? Because people say their objective is to go to Mars. No, it's not. If they go to Mars and drop us off and we never get back, they missed their mission is actually to get us to Mars and back safely. And there's at least 5 or 6 miracles they're going to need to figure that out, because we don't know how to get them there fast enough. We don't know how to breathe on Mars. We don't know how to cultivate food and agriculture. We don't know any of that stuff. They have to figure out all that stuff. Wow, they're going to need one directive that's powerful and on target to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'll use them as a quick example because everybody knows, generally speaking, what they do.
John, is this like a mission statement? Is this like, how does this differ from a...
It's a good question. So a mission statement oftentimes is, I'll call it aesthetically pleasing or optimistic. Oftentimes, if you've ever been in like an office where they have their mission statement behind the desk where you meet the person who's at the front desk when you walk into their office, and their mission statement is there. And
it's sort of like this long and full of buzzwords and looks like it was assembled by a committee.
It's aspirational, it's optimistic, and it's generally speaking unachievable. It's us at our best day every day for the rest of our lives, every single employee. You go, you guys will never do that.
And you've got to put customer centric somewhere in there as well.
Yeah, this one's much more a straight line from, we need to get to Mars and back. This is the one thing we have to do every single day, and it's actually quite short. So
it's an instruction. It's an instruction rather than a vacuous statement.
It's absolutely an instruction. It's not mean-spirited, but let's take an example. We interviewed tons of people for the book, and we found, it was surprising how many companies we found that do this. The difference was most of them had multiple, and one of the hallmarks that we say is the reason it's one is when you have one, if Philip is facing a challenge, he doesn't have to figure out which one of the core directives to use. So you get a disgruntled employee that says, unless you give me a 20% raise, I'm leaving. Do you treat your employees as your best asset, do your best work, make a difference? Which one do you use to address that? You don't know because they're competing. It's what I call a cage match. I don't know which one. If you only have one, it's easy enough. And if we're SpaceX and he says, I want a 20% raise, if you say, John, let's say you're the disgruntled employee. If he says, John's critical to get us to Mars and back, it's easy for Philip to then say, I'll just negotiate on pay and see if I can get it down to 15%, but I got to keep John. Super simple for Philip to know what to do. So when he goes to Elon and says, I had to give him a 20% raise, there's no discussion. You say, we can't get to Mars and back unless we keep John. I was kind of up against it. So I followed the one core directive, which is get us to Mars and back. And I paid him the money. Super simple. As soon as there's two, it's confusing. And then they have, now Philip says, John, I'm going to need to check with Elon and have a meeting with him and I'll get back. Now it's multiple meetings, and time is not on your side when you do that. We want Philip to be autonomous to make the decision and you to have clarity as well. You shake hands, write up the paperwork in HR, and we're off to the races. And there's no drama, there's no nothing. See why one makes so much sense? Here's the challenge though. This is why it's simple and not easy. If you do only one, I'm going to skip that for a sec. We will take a volunteer in a sec. We'll do it with everybody, I think. If you do only one, the challenge is you have to get it right. Because if you get it wrong, you're going to be off course and you're going to end up on Neptune and you're going to run out of fuel. You go, oh, we didn't have to go to Neptune. We had the wrong core directive. Not good. And so this is where people want to confuse it with culture. So it's agnostic for culture. It's your commercial vision. How do we get to and from, or how do we get directly to your commercial vision? So Philip, do you have a commercial vision? Can you state it succinctly, like in one sentence?
Yes. My commercial vision is to provide best in class or best practices in cybersecurity for the specified market.
Great. That's great. Thomas, how about you?
Commercial vision is to provide alternative ingredients to the feed industry.
Alternative what?
Alternative protein or ingredients to the feed industry, feed and food industry.
Got it. So notice, and here's how we double check that it's a commercial vision. If your company, if you're venture funded or you've got a bank funding or you've got friends and family funding, but if you've got financial stakeholders and after 3 years you've burned up all the money and you go back to them and say, good for us, we won top place to work in Edinburgh 3 years in a row, I need more money. They're going to say, what about best in class cyber? Do we produce any cybersecurity at all? Well, we're working on that because we got a best in class, good place to work. People love us. And you go, I'm not giving you another dime, because nobody cares if you have a winning culture if you're not producing on your commercial vision. In the end, if you will, money walks and everything else, or money talks and everything else walks, because you could be the worst culture and fail, or you can be the best culture and fail. No, in the end, your stakeholders won't care. Your customers won't either. If they say, I'm still waiting on some best in class cybersecurity, you say, you know what, but we love you as a customer. I'm getting hacked by Russia. I don't, right. That's not the love I was hoping for. Yeah. So we have to be very careful that this is a direct line between what you do every day and your commercial vision. So if you think of your stakeholders, your investors, your leadership team, all these people, they will all want you to succeed on your commercial vision because they're all tied to that. They won't necessarily care so much how you run your culture. You will, but they won't. So I'm going to skip that in a sec. Yeah, let's do it. So let's go to a case study. I'll give you a quick client in Texas. They run a SaaS-based software company. They run a fleet. Basically, they do rental cars, but high end. It's called Silver Car. Originally it's called Silver Car. Now it's called Dealerware. They do limos at airports, and they were tied to Audi. Now they're tied to anybody. Their basic issue was up till about 50, I could grab Thomas and say, Thomas, you're the head of product. I'm the head of marketing. I need you for 10 minutes so we can solve a problem. We didn't need a team meeting. They went from 50 to like 275. And on the way, you could no longer do that in the hallway. You had to get Thomas and a handful of his team and myself and a handful of my team, and then maybe Philip from HR, just to have an HR person in it, and John from legal. Now we got 4 different teams represented to solve the same problem we used to be able to solve with 2 of us in the hallway. So what happened, they went from an average of 6 hours of meetings every week on their calendar to 23. Now this is over the course of about 18 months. As you might imagine, it was mysterious to them why their growth slowed. The reason was people literally were in meetings too much. They weren't getting done what they used to get done. And it was creep. It happened one day at a time over 18 months. So what they realized is we've got to create a way to get to 1,000 employees and double and all that other stuff with one rule. They realized meetings were the enemy. So what they did, and we worked with them on this, it was, talk about counterintuitive. What they came up with was start with yes. Now it sounds a little like a bumper sticker, but what they came up with was this ingenious system. And so now they have 1 meeting a week on Thursdays with 6 slots of 10 minutes each. If you have an idea, you come and present your idea in a sentence or 2, and it is conditionally approved after 10 seconds. They just said, we're wasting tons of time running mediocre, bad, and some good ideas up the flagpole with multiple meetings over the course of a month before we finally say we don't have the budget or we don't have the time. That's a ton of meetings for a ton of teams. And they said, what if we conditionally approved everything, and the good ideas will make it their way through and the bad ideas will fall apart really quickly. So they developed this system. So if Thomas, you have an idea, let's say your idea is you'd like everybody to work 4 10-hour days and everybody gets Friday off. So everybody gets a 3-day weekend. That's your idea. That's the whole idea. We're in the meeting, the ideas meeting. You have a 10-minute slot. We acknowledge it. First thing we say is, Thomas, thanks for the idea. We don't bless it. We don't cheer for it. We don't debate it. We just acknowledge it and say conditionally approved. Now what happens is we open up the floor. The next step is talk me out of it. Whoever's leading the meeting says, talk me out of it. Everyone has a chance to ask questions only that would reveal holes or blind spots. So Philip, you're the first one. What would a hole or a blind spot be if that was conditionally approved as of right now? Now it's only been approved 30 seconds ago. What's a question you might ask that would poke a hole or a blind spot in that? You got one, Philip? You're muted. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I'm sorry about that. So mine would be for those days that are considered the time off. Who's minding the store?
Right. What happens if a customer problem happens on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday? You're in
Yeah.
cybersecurity. You get hacked on a Saturday morning, and everybody says, "I'm on my 3-day weekend. Don't bother me." Yeah.
Yeah.
What about that? Okay,
Right.
John. What's another one? You're just raising awareness or revealing blind spots. What
Do we
might
clean the office? Do we clean the office on Fridays?
Yeah. Do we clean the office?
Do any maintenance stuff? Do we even bother with security on Fridays? Yeah.
Perfect. Thomas, what's another one?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. What about productivity?
Yeah. What about productivity? I don't like Fridays off. Could I take Mondays off instead and have a 3-day? Can I float my day? Could I pick it any day of the week? You start getting into all these things, and whoever is the holder of the idea, if it was my idea, After about 8 minutes, all I do is thank everyone for their input. If I still like the idea, but now I realize there's holes in it, I can sign up for another time slot next week, rework the idea. We've just spent 8 minutes. It was conditionally approved and it fell apart pretty quickly. If it's still got promise, I may come back next week. If I got slaughtered, nobody thinks any worse. We only spent 8 minutes on it. We go out and we do 6 of these in a 1 hour meeting. And those are the only ideas new from any team. Now you can do this inside your team as well, like as a microcosm. But for the company, that's how they do it. What they realized is they invested one 1 hour meeting a week for new ideas, and a handful of them make it forward. Most of them either get fully reworked or just die a slow death, and only one person had to spend any mental energy on it because the holder of the idea is the only person that holds it. So they create this whole system, but really what it was, now if you have an idea, what does it do to you as a human being if you're not the CEO or the team lead? You'll come forward with these ideas. You'll say, you know, that's a great, you know what I'm going to do? God, that's the best idea I've ever had. Nobody ever listens to me though when I'm the bottom of the barrel of my team. I'm going to just sign up for one of those things. I'm going to show the whole team. It's now an idea meritocracy, but it's super efficient because they started with an affirmative answer to everything instead of arguing about whether it was good or not. Brilliant. Now it's super like it wouldn't work for every company. But for these guys, what it did was it dropped their average per employee meeting time back down from 23 to something like 9 or 10. And guess what? Their growth started again. They started doubling again. Now that's customized to them. And you think, I know a bit about their culture, and they've got a good culture, but are they award winning? Are they on lists? No, it's a good place to work. It's not the top, it's not the bottom. It's culture agnostic. This is not a cultural idea. This is how do we double every year? They're in SaaS-based software. They've got to double every year. And they flatlined for about a year and they couldn't figure out why. Now this may work for them for a while, and then they may have to shift it as they get to 1,000 employees or 2,500 employees, or they go public. But for now, this works great for them because it moves a very fast-paced, creative company forward in the most effective way. And I thought we could have sat down for hours without any backdrop on these guys, and we could have thrown cool ideas that Amazon does, or cool ideas that Microsoft does, or cool ideas that Apple does, and they wouldn't work because for this company, this solved the block to them getting where they wanted to go. Does that make sense? So on the screen is some that are what I call universal. Like there's no business on the planet that if their one core directive as a default were keep your promises, that'll improve almost any business. But is it the right one for you? Treat people well, maybe. Is that internally? Is that externally? If it's universal, it's again, it's a good one. Play to win. You hear that a lot. But we get these funny ones like play chess, not checkers. What if I grew up in a culture that played Go? And I'm not really that familiar with chess or checkers. The metaphor doesn't work for me. So you've got that as one of your core values or your cultural things, and people go, I don't even know what that means, so I just ignore it. Because nobody's going to say that out loud because you get in trouble, but they just ignore it. And so it's a waste. It's white noise. We want the one that people say, oh, if we're going to go to Mars and back, I better do this. And if we figure out what that is to fulfill on that, then we're in good shape, regardless of our culture. And if we fail on that, people are going to say you managed it poorly or you guys didn't know what you're doing. This is the one we found was the most catalytic at taking people and having them go like this. They were doing well. They were doing this, and this one made it go like this because it made everybody autonomous. It put everybody, Thomas, you had said, how do I do it across multiple geographies and multiple cultures? Yeah, you figure this piece out, and then I would imagine you may have an additional language thing to make sure it translates the same culturally, but everybody's following one thing on multiple continents and in multiple offices. Exactly what we're looking for. So here's here's what we'd like to do now. Who'd like to play? And we'll start doing this for you. What am I doing? Trying to stop share. There you go. Okay.
Hey, John, unfortunately, I need to jump off because I've got another call starting in a few minutes, but
Yep.
Really appreciate the at least the introduction. I think this certainly very interesting. We'll follow up. I'll follow up by email.
That's great.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
That's great.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. All the best. Oh, you guys want to play rock, paper, scissors? Philip, if you're game. Yeah, what do you
this one?
What's that?
So, Philip, you take this one.
I'm game.
All right, that's great. All right, so let's we go back to your culture, your commercial vision.
Okay.
Provide best-in-class cybersecurity to your specific market or your chosen market. Great. Let's drop back a little bit. Where do you get stuck in trying to do that? Like, what are the roadblocks, or what consistently gets in your way of that?
We'll go to one of your statements about our internal, and I'm going to flip that to the customers that we deal with, and that is culture.
Okay.
One of the things that affects change on this level has to be the culture. So in order to convince the personnel within an organization, the executive suite has to buy into a culture shift. Sometimes that's difficult when you have to pay a lot of money for it.
Sorry, so you need a culture shift in the customer's organization, not your organization.
In the customer's organization.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay, got it.
Cybersecurity is a culture. If it's going to be successful, it has to become a culture, right? So because your weakest link is really
humans.
That's right. The human firewall.
Yep.
That's the weakest link. But in order for them to really understand it, it has to come from the top. So the culture from the executives has to matriculate down to everyone else that says, we're on board with this. This is one of the things that we're adopting as a company culture. We're going to provide the technology tools, et cetera, to do it, but we also have to provide the awareness training, which is on the personnel side, so that you know what to do and what not to do and what to watch out for and how you can get fished and so on and so forth.
So in essence, you have to be responsible for the customer adopting the platform 100%, not 99, not 98, not 95.
Absolutely. And then paying for it, because this is not a low cost.
No, I get it. I get it. But
so,
if they go to 98% and fail, is it true that they blame you for that then? And say, what the hell?
They can, but the key to that is you have to manage their expectations, because
I understand. So that's a big story that we won't get into.
Yeah.
Let's take a shot at, because yours is tricky, because your core directive has to take into consideration what John and his team do in their organization, that you're not in that organization.
That's right.
Good. So let's take a crack at it. John, if you were advising this situation, can you take a crack at a core directive that might start to address this problem? Like, this is because for you, Phil, for you to get you to your commercial vision, you're not only running your own organization, but you're running your own organization in the way that they infiltrate, or that they take care of, or that they influence your customers. That's a big ask.
It is a big ask, but it's necessary to have more success.
Oh no, I get it. All right, John. So you and I have to suggest possibilities. So here's how we do this. First thing we always start with is an action verb. It's a command. It's not polite. It's not a phrase. It's a do this, do this, do it's like that. It's a directive. You want to take a shot at it, John?
Sure. Safeguard human systems first.
Interesting. Yep. Because it's inside and outside of your organization.
Yes.
Yeah. How's that as a first cut? How is that?
Is that you're referring to me, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good because the human firewall that's the weakest link. So
Yep.
if that is the directive, then that not only helps the personnel that are non-executives, but that also permeates the executive suite. So to me, that begins to shift what the thinking of the culture is. Of course, there'd be some holes to fill in detail-wise, but that begins to shift how people think about what cybersecurity resiliency really is.
Here's where we throw all that out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's your job review or your performance review, and it's your customer who fell apart. The only question I have to ask you in your performance review is, did you safeguard human systems first? And you say, wow, I never did get that one team on board. And you go, that's on you, it's not on the customer. Because that's the only thing that makes us get to it. It's easy to be able to, and then we cut through all the crap.
Yeah.
Because then you do too. You say, how you doing with that new big company, that new big contract? You say, we don't have very good buy-in yet. You now know we got work to do.
Yep.
And the work is on me. Now you have all kinds of systems to take care of that. But until you're at 100% adherence, your job isn't done. And oh, by the way, that is on you, because 99% isn't quite good enough. Or I got 8 out of the 10 teams, but 2 of them just won't play. You say, sorry. What do you have to? You may have to go in kicking and screaming. That's interesting. How might you improve it? If you shifted it or improved it, how would you do it? Because this is the whole idea is that super clear. If every person at your organization, not every person at John's or mine, does that, we know what we have to do internally to adhere to our commercial vision, and nobody's going to give a damn whether our culture internally is award-winning. Right. Because if you're failing, they're going to say, but they suck at cybersecurity.
Right.
That's why we say this was the one that scaled the best, because people said, oh, we win with this. And you say, yes, you win with this. And we don't really care. You can do the culture however you want it.
Right.
So how might you alter, tweak, improve, or use this just as a base and say, it's not quite that, it's this instead? Because only you really will know this.
So, hang on a second. I'm getting a call from, I gotta take this. I'm sorry. Hey, Kyle.
John, I don't know about you, but I want to be in Philip's backyard.
Philip definitely wins
He's winning. He's winning. Yeah. I have to climb up this, all this stuff back here is all like brush and prickers, and I don't want to be back there, but I want to be in his backyard with a lawn chair and a sandwich and some lemonade. Yeah.
One of your green smoothie cocktail things.
Yeah, let's say he's almost ready for a smoothie cocktail. Yeah. But you and me, yeah, we're here with family pictures and stuck in a back bedroom. Oh boy.
So I'm going to cheat because that's how this works. What are the okay? I was going to say, what are the holes in that one core directive? Like, what does it not address?
The part that scares me, if I were poking holes in it, is it possible to ensure or guarantee, or how do you ensure that, especially in an organization that's not your own? Because all I can do is be a parking meter cop and say, everybody parked in the right spot except these 2, and I'm ratting them out. And then those 2 are going to hate you because you got them in trouble in their own organization as an outsider. It's it's good on the team you're playing for. It's not so good for the team. When you walk in, will everybody hate you because you said, hey, you ratted me out and I got in trouble with my boss for not using the cybersecurity system. That's my only concern is adherence is, safeguarding is a great word, but adherence, that's a tough thing. Because one slip up or one lax person or one person that's emailing passwords and logins over the system and not logged and not fully protected, they screw everybody.
Because I think from my understanding of cybersecurity is it's a probability game, right? There's no such thing as 100%.
Right.
No system is 100% safe.
Right.
You just want to make the risks asymmetric so that it's disproportionately more hassle to get at whatever's on the other side of it.
So here's my counter. I wonder if it's ensure. A safeguard is polite. Ensure is a little firmer. Guarantee is way high, but if our one core directive is guarantee, what is it? Human systems first, or adherence to human systems first. If what we have is we have a money back guarantee and kind of a reputational and handshake, is it? I don't know that it's achievable. That would be my only concern. But if it's a differentiator, it gets, in this case, Philip's team, it gets them to their commercial vision, and customers say, I wouldn't think of it using anybody else because they actually guarantee it. And I see this like on the company's called LifeLock. What they guarantee is if you have a credit card breach or fraud or whatever, they have up to $1 million legal fund or something to get it back. Now, nobody wants to test that. Nobody wants the hassle of it. But you go, I feel pretty confident that these guys know what the hell they're doing if they're backing it up with $1 million warranty or guarantee or whatever it is. Does that get them there faster or more effectively or more efficiently?
Yeah, because it's that last mile thing. Can we get them to? We'll have to see. So it's a cybersecurity company is working with a client and they're saying, okay, cool, we need to, when you're faced with a tough decision, always safeguard the human system first. Philip's discussing a breach right now. Somebody's tried to break stuff.
Yeah, it's so funny.
So it does this. Guaranteed adherence to systems first and foremost. Yeah. Guaranteed systems that we guarantee, create systems we can guarantee.
Right, creating them doesn't do it. That's creativity, but it's not adherence.
Yeah.
So that's, and we may be splitting hairs, and we'll need Philip back here in a sec. But to create a system, and this is what happens with most companies. They say, "Oh, it's so complicated, I can't use it," and they just opt out. If you guaranteed it, you'd actually have to design it in a way that people would say, "Oh, that's so simple." Oh, okay, so I'm willing, and I'm capable. Because I know I don't use half of the security that I know my bank has, because it's such a pain in the ass to even log on. You need passcodes and all kinds of stuff. And you say, you guys are 10 years behind in cybersecurity. You have fines and trouble if you don't do it. And the user experience absolutely sucks. So you just avoid it and say it doesn't work anyhow because they're so poor at it. Well, if I took that on though and said the only way I win is if all my customers win, I almost have. Do I have to guarantee it? Here's what I think I'm asking in the sales cycle, which is funny. This is how these things work out. Do I have to decline a sale and say, we guarantee that adherence to the systems first and foremost, but you have to sign up for training, you have to sign up for certification, you have to sign up for whatever, because that's part of our system. We can't just willy-nilly guarantee that your people are gonna, because what if they actively sabotage it or ignore it? I can't take on the guarantee unless you guys go through our system. We've built a bulletproof system. Yeah, I don't. It's an interesting one because it's outside of your organization. The guarantee or the core directive is actually affecting your customer. It affects who you are, but it's affecting the customer as well. You have to infiltrate and enroll them in your system. That's much more difficult than just saying in-house, we have to do this.
Yeah. So is the core directive such that it creates a behavior that causes the custom systems to become infiltrated with good behavior?
It's a good question. Normally when we've seen this, it's about our organization. We don't worry about the customer. But given that it's cybersecurity, I could see where this one, it's an interesting case. Because if you've designed the best cybersecurity ever and nobody uses it, did you achieve your commercial vision? You go out of business because everybody will sue you.
So I mean, got a similar problem. I mean, who else? What other industries have got that dynamic?
Well, we use SpaceX. So they designed a way to breathe on Mars, and you don't follow the system, and you asphyxiate. Is that SpaceX responsibility, or is that yours because you're a moron?
Okay, guys, I am so sorry about that. I have a situation at hand. I'm going to try to multitask because it's time sensitive.
So I don't know whether we've destroyed your business or made it way better, but John and I we've been discussing the difference between having a core. Usually when we've seen a core directive, it's for our own organization. If we just do this in-house, it will affect the outcome we want. Yes. And in your case, you brought up an interesting possibility, which is the only way we win is if our clients follow the systems, procedures, whatever you want to call it, because otherwise they're not secure. How do we do that? Do we have to take responsibility for guaranteeing their adherence? If we do, that's quite a challenge. It's an interesting challenge. You could certainly deliver on it. But it changes the trajectory of your business. Because first of all, you'd be the only person that anyone would ever hire. And you'd also get sued every time you failed.
Well, that's right. And that's why you have to, that's why you have to qualify it, and you have to put the onus on them. You have to put the onus on them as an organization. I mean, we can lead you to the water, but we can't make you drink.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but I'm reading the Google reviews right now and say, Philip's a great guy. They had a great offer, but in the end, we got hacked and we lost all our money because Russians came and took all the money out of our bank account because our high school intern didn't follow the system, and so they stole all our money. They're not going to say Philip did a great job and it was nobody's going to say we screwed up. They're never going to.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. So it's tough. I mean, and that's tough. That's what makes it. And so that's another part that makes it tough, is because if something does happen, not because of anything we neglected to do, because we lined them up for it, you can't make them drink. So unless they have a policy in place that everyone has to sign, and this is what we really try to do.
Makes no difference because everybody signs for sexual harassment as well, and you still have sexual harassment.
Exactly.
Yeah, signing on. That's why I said this is a difficult one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It really is. Yeah.
So what's something short of that's only internal to your organization? I won't say short of, but it's only affects your organization.
So okay, I guess what I would say is understanding the the sense of urgency that we have to instill in the clients that we're talking to.
It's not a core directive. That's an.
Oh, you mean a core directive? Oh, you mean a core
Yeah.
directive? Oh, okay.
Yeah, try a different one that only
Okay.
affects the people under your roof, not your
I get it.
customer's roof.
I get it. Okay, practice what you preach. How about that?
Yeah, that one's not going to work either.
I know.
The problem is it's a cliche.
Yeah. Well, I know.
Then we're into work harder, not smarter, and all those
all
others.
of that.
Yeah.
So a core directive that I can think of at this point.
It's challenging. This is, we tell people it's a simple concept. It's not easy.
But this is why people bring you into the organization to come and facilitate.
Exactly
this
right. That's why they say,
and
because you're really solving your biggest, oftentimes blind spot, but it's your biggest challenge for commercial success.
Yeah.
The truth is, if everybody worked off an org chart and did their roles and responsibility, everybody would go public. And things don't work that way. So you say, good, what's the one thing we require for every person in our organization? I work with Meetup, the group Meetup. They have one rule, one only: build community every day. And what happened with them is when the pandemic hit, they had an absolute, they would kick you off and ban you from their platform if you did online events, because they were their tagline was getting people using technology to get people off of technology. The whole idea was to get you outside for a hike or go bowling or do a wine tasting night.
Right.
You weren't supposed to use technology except to sign up for the event. And when the pandemic hit, literally in 4 days, they had seminars up on how to hold a great online event, because the CEO was smart enough to realize that what we're really about is building community, and the rules now require that be non-contact. So they shifted on a dime and they pissed off all the old timers at the company. He was in 18 months. He was fluid with it. They had the company was almost 16 years when he took over. He said the old timers were like vehemently opposed to it because that violated everything they had ever signed up for with the company. But the truth is, building community is building community. And he was very brave and smart. And it took about 4 weeks for the number of events to actually exceed before the pandemic, because after people had binge watched Netflix happily for a week or two, they were bored out of their mind and they needed something that involved other people, and online events started to take place, and Meetup was way out in front. But the core directive was, regardless of pandemic or war or whatnot, social is social. And they said, are you building community? If you're building community, we're good. And it was general enough, but also very specific. Yeah. So then you take it internally and say, are you fighting with the other team, or are you building community with the other team across from you internally? Oh yeah, it's both and. But when you get these right, they scale. And when you get them wrong, it's a rule it's very difficult to follow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to jump off. Where do I find the link to book your follow-up, to book some follow-up time with you? If I'm gonna do that, how do I do that?
The easiest thing is the email in the lower left-hand corner. I would suggest that. I think on the site there's a Calendly thing, but yeah, and that's the whole idea, is to help afterwards, because this is oftentimes, rarely is it done in one phone call.
I can follow up with you on LinkedIn. That's easy.
Follow up on
LinkedIn. So
yeah, the email is on every slide. So that's oh, I took the slides off. Sorry.
Oh, that's cool. I got the confirmation from the email, and I've also got you on LinkedIn. So I'll follow up with you there.
Yeah. Well, shockingly, I'm not hard to Google either with my last name. I kind of command the SEO in that.
Amazing.
Yeah, don't have a whole lot of competition there, so that's a good thing. So yeah, Phil, thanks for playing guinea pig.
Hey, I like to do it all the time because it helps me learn too.
Well, this is a learn by doing. You can't just say, oh, I think I'll think about this. No, you got to actually talk it out and say, no, that won't work because it's got this, and it takes a little bit of thing. So happy to follow up if it's helpful, because the whole idea is to get you from here to your commercial vision by simplifying and clarifying. And
that's what I like, simplicity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, I
So-
apologize for this. I had no idea this was gonna.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the nature.
How dare someone hack your client on a call?
Well, you
Exactly.
actually, you blame the president. Didn't he
That's
say,
all.
everybody get ready? We're having a cyber attack from Russia. Be ready. It's like,
Yeah.
oh. who
Yeah,
knew? So,
here it comes.
all righty. Bye,
All right.
gents. I will
I
say
appreciate
goodbye. Thanks so much.